your people, your city council, they're amongst you. They're your peers. Right now, when it comes to county government, there's only one of us that lives in Santan Valley. The other 4 individuals that make a decision for the entire Santan Valley area, they don't live here. And so they try to rely on some of the information we give, I give, my office gives, or even staff members. But even then, in my opinion, sometimes they still don't get it right when it comes to the votes. And so that's the part to remember, is that your city council comes from your peers. You're the one that's voting on those 7 individuals. Your mayor. So it's local government being brought closer to the people, to where the people have more control over the say and everything else in the direction. I've always said this, somebody asked me once, why am I in favor of an incorporation? Why am I as an individual? It's because I think that our forefathers had intended for government to be closer to the people and not so far removed like we become with our federal government right now. Even our state level, we've become very far removed from state government. I'm reminded of what happened when I first came into office with Johnson Utilities. Most people know that story that have lived here for some time. And but we had to go through the Corporation Commission, 5 individuals that didn't even know, they didn't even spend time out here to know what kind of problems there were until we actually brought it to their attention. Then they came out here, and that's when we got results of changing things with Johnson Utilities. Had this been an incorporated area, they would have not needed to go to the corporation to make the change. They could have made the decision themselves and pushed the issue to get the change without having to go to the Corporation Commission. That's what kind of power a municipality has. They even have more power than the county does. There was a lawsuit on some things, and I don't know all the particulars about that. All I know is that I had citizens that were living in third world conditions. That's all I know. And it was time that we do something about it, meaning the county. And I had to convince my other 4 board members, or at least 2/3 of them, to vote in a positive that we make changes, that we go to the Corporation Commission and we fight on behalf of our citizens, which we did, and we were able to be successful in that. We had water shortages. We had communities that were without water. We had school districts that had to shut down various schools because there was not an adequate supply of water. They had the conditions of, there was a high nitrate problem in some of the wells, which is detrimental to the health. We had raw sewage coming up in neighborhoods. And I mean nice neighborhoods. So those conditions, and most people that have lived out here for some time were very familiar with that. But we do have a lot of people that have moved here that are under the conditions that we have with EPCOR now. But with the municipality, those things should have been and would have been addressed much earlier than what they were. When I ran, it was because I could see the deficiencies in our roads and infrastructure as a whole. And we didn't have enough businesses out here. That was the other part. And so trying to figure out where Johnson Utilities was just an aftermath for me. I even went and sat down with him before I even ran because somebody suggested, because he was our utility. And when I walked out of his office, I felt very confident that we could work through some of the issues and problems that we were headed towards, especially with the amount of growth that we were going through. And so I was very confident with that. And after about, 3 or 4 months in the office, that wasn't happening. When we started to have water shortages and no water at all, and then even our fire hydrants were not adequately charged. There wasn't even in water in some of these. And so that's whenever the attention for me, it really got my attention that this is very unsafe conditions on a population of over 100,000 people. I think one of the corporation commissioners, he used the analogy. He said this is very similar to, I think at that time it was Flint, Michigan that had problems. He even made that statement in one of our open meetings that we had. And so that's what really got the attention of everybody, is that straight out, what got the attention of the Corporation Commission was this community coming together and being willing to go and share their stories. And they didn't feel threatened by Johnson Utilities, which they had been at one point. And so it was really difficult for me to wrap my head around that one entity, such as a utility, had so much power over the whole process. And it was amazing to me. Well, this takes, to me, now that I have a better understanding and a different outlook of how government should be ran, I go back to, when you bring government closer to the people have the power, they have the control, and that's what this does.